and welcome to Cool Conversations.
Well,
I
thank
am
you.
so excited because we are going to talk about harvest time. Harvest,
Yes.
harvest. And if if you've ever been anywhere in agriculture, you always know that the harvest time is when everyone rejoices.
That's
Harvest is
right.
when all of your hard work, all of everything that you've done, it comes into this culminating. Some people have festivals, some people have parties, and we have suffered enough. We have suffered,
Yes.
and this year, 2020,
Woo.
has been a year like no other. If anyone forgets any other year, it won't be 2020. 2020 will
Come
probably
on.
have volumes in
Come
the
on.
encyclopedia. 2020 will have volumes of television shows. It will have sections and episodes that probably go on for weeks and months. But this is our harvest time. I was telling Colette prior to us going live that I've seen so many discouraging posts. And like if you were a study of the word, even if you're not a biblical scholar, hello, Mr. First. I know that's right. If you're a biblical scholar, you know anything about the word, you know that there is always a reaping season. And so I just truly believe tonight that this, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to enter our harvest zone. I
That's
don't
right.
call it
That's
fair.
right.
I know that, honey, I know that everything around you sometimes can be a little chaotic. I know that all of this politics and the political scene can be quite depressing and oppressing, depends on where
Come
you are.
on.
But I know that we're about to enter our harvest time, because if you have sown in good ground, if you have sown your seeds, baby, you only can collect this harvest. So we're going to talk about harvest time. And I'm going to introduce you all to someone, and I think a lot of you all probably are familiar with her. This woman is a teacher. She's an entrepreneur. She's an organizational specialist. She's an event planner. She's an author. Oh my God. And she's a comedian. And we're going to talk about all of the different avenues that she has. But what I tell her every year, probably since what? 2000 and what? When did I meet you?
14? 2014.
2014.
Oh
She
my
really
goodness. Yeah.
She's really not. And when I say teacher, she can teach most people under the rug when it comes to biblical principles, but she's not living up to her harvest. But I'm waiting for that harvest, because I think when she enters that harvest, we're all going to reap. Hint, hint. But you know what? I'm going to let her introduce herself. Yeah, I put you out there, honey. I'm going to let you introduce
Yes, you
yourself.
did. Yes, you did.
Honey, you take the show. We're going to talk about harvest. And when I think about harvest, I think about you, as I said earlier, reaping the good rewards. Now, sometimes we're going to be honest. Sometimes the harvest we receive sometimes may not be that plentiful, but it's because we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, sowing in bad ground. So we're going to talk about that too. It's coming. I know that, First Lady. Honey, this harvest is coming. It is coming. So let's talk about harvest. And what does it mean to you, Colette?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on the show. I want to say hello, Dr. Norma, bestie. I just love her, First Lady Norma. And she certainly could get on here and teach about harvest also, because we know as women of God that there is seed, there is time, and there is harvest. And that is the principle that has been set up since the beginning of time. And what we have to understand, and I like what you said when you talked about the soil, is because what we must understand is that our seeds will birth a harvest regardless of what the seed is. So you're getting a harvest from your seed. Now, what the harvest is, whether the harvest is plentiful, whether the harvest is weeds, that's going to be based on your seed. And you cannot talk about the harvest without first breaking down the seed, because we have to understand that the seed creates the harvest. And so some of us are out here not sowing, or we're sowing the wrong thing, and then we're looking for a harvest that never comes because we haven't ever sowed it. The word says that every seed after its own kind. Now listen, if you plant oranges, you can't go out and pick apples.
Chill.
You got to, come on now,
Come on.
You got to pick and decide to sow what you intend to reap in the future. It is so important. I don't want to jump around because I got so excited when you started talking about it, because I know people right now who are clinically depressed. They're clinically depressed because the pandemic. They're clinically depressed because of the elections. There's a lot going on in this earth realm. But I want to assure everyone God is still on the throne.
Yeah.
God is still in the blessing business. God still got plenty of miracles. God still got your name on his tongue. God still has your future in his hands. God still has you under his wings. God still wants to provide you with a bountiful harvest.
Yeah, the
But
harvest.
listen, but
Now,
listen,
I want
go
people to
ahead.
talk about the harvest and what it means, because I think we've gotten away from the harvest because we are so accustomed to misery. We're so accustomed to the gossip. We're so accustomed to the naysayers that I see if you look, sometimes people forget that the bountiful can be plenty and the bounty can be marvelous. And sometimes we have to wait for that harvest. And so I think it's the wait. It's the wait, the anticipation, the wait that makes us wane a little bit, that makes us weary, because we're human. We're
Well,
all
let's
human.
let's say this too. There here, and this becomes difficult for people. There are different types of harvests.
Mm.
Sometimes the harvest came and it's what you sowed is just not what you wanted.
Whoa.
You got to be careful that the seed, he said, be anxious for nothing, but you got to be watchful over the seed. You can't be out here backstabbing, gossiping, doing all kind of chaos and strife, and then you running around saying, I've been praying for peace, I can't get no peace. You got to harvest you sowed. So you have to make sure your seed that you're sowing is what you really want to come back to you. And you also made a perfect example of what people are missing: seed, time,
Time.
and harvest. That time is spiritual currency.
I
Once
like that.
spent, can't get back.
I like
Your
that.
time, listen, you never, let me give you a principle or a law of the harvest. You can never reap, which means your harvest will never come in the season you sowed it in. It's not his principle for you to sow it and then tomorrow get up and your harvest is here. It is seed, there is a time period, and then there is harvest. And he says that in Genesis 8:22 when he gives us the principle of what a harvest is. And he gives us the principle of how we get a harvest. And let me look at and see, because I know that I want to make sure that I give it to you directly as he gave it. But in Genesis 8:22, he says, while the earth remaineth, seed, time, and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. In other words, no pandemic, no election, no man, no job is going to stop your harvest.
The harvest.
What God has for you, he has for you. So we want to make sure, because see, there are all kind of seeds. And I'm talking about seeds because in the Bible, there are 52 verses about your seed. But check this out. There are 70 verses about your harvest. Why?
Harvest.
Because we are dealing with a God of multiplication. So we can put a seed in. Old folks used to say, you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed. See,
All
you
right.
can split that apple open, you can count every seed in that apple. But when you take that seed and drop it into the soil and let time do what it's going to do, and the harvest comes forth, you can count the number of apples that came from that seed. God is in the multiplication business. And so what you talked about in time is so important. We can't look up for tomorrow and think that what we sowed this morning is going to manifest itself
Yeah.
like that.
And I
Some
want
of
to
us have
talk
been
about
waiting.
the time. I want to talk about the principle of time because we are
Yeah.
in a self gratification society, and we're in society because everything is now instantly.
Yes,
That
it
we
is.
expect the blessing, and we expect our harvest to be manifested instantly. And
That's
sometimes
right.
we're not prepared for that harvest. It reminds me of a farmer when they put those seeds out there, they cultivate those seeds. And while those seeds are growing, they're doing something else in preparation for that harvest. So
Mm-hmm.
while you are sowing these seeds, don't be dismayed. Stay in preparation for that harvest. I remember the very first house we purchased. I'm really big on antiques and estate sales at the time. And I remember going to estate sales and I would get this furniture and I would go to these auctions and people were like, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm getting ready for my house. They're like, well, you don't have the house. I said, well, I'm setting up. I'm setting up for my harvest.
Let me
And
say that.
listen,
Let me say that.
in preparation, and when we purchased this house a couple months ago, I was already preparing for the harvest. I was preparing things and purchasing things in order for that harvest. So I want to tell everybody, while you're sowing those seeds and you're ready for it and you're waiting for this to manifest, be in preparation for your harvest. Be in
You are
preparation.
so right.
Be encouraged. Be prepared. And if you feel like if it's something you're trying to obtain, it could be a promotion, it could be job, it could be even family. If you're trying to prepare for family being saved, be in preparation, be in prayer. Okay.
And be that example
Yeah.
that encourages people. We can talk it, but we also have to be that example. And we don't necessarily then have to say anything. They get an example from the life we're living. It is so funny that you talked about your new house. When my husband and I bought this house, we literally did not have furniture in our living room and our dining room because we have a formal dining room for 2 years. And people would come over and say, well, when you going to get furniture? Do you know that I never was anxious about it? I was just waiting on God. But let me tell you how I waited. Let me tell you how I spent that time. We had prayer meeting here. We laid out and just prayed in my empty living room. It was room enough to put chairs up and have prayer circles. It was room enough to have Bible study. We had such a good time in the Lord in these empty rooms. And I was sitting at work and God said, go get your furniture. At lunchtime, I walked into the furniture store, and just to be real transparent, this was years ago, credit was jacked up. I didn't know how I got the house, but God. So I certainly wasn't trying to rush and get no furniture. So I'm kind of walking on tiptoes in the furniture store. My husband meets me there. He's like, why are we here? And I was like, God said, come here and pick our furniture. Within our lunch hour, we picked all our furniture, didn't have a dime. The man kept asking me, what made you come here today? What made you come here today? And there were some beautiful chairs I wanted. The chairs were $800 a piece. He said to me, I am going to give you this chair for $399. I said, ooh, Jesus. He said, hold on, hold on. He said, I'm going to give you this chair for free. So the chairs were $800 each. He gave me both chairs for $399. Can we say harvest?
Harvest.
I had not attempted to look for furniture. I had not asked God about any furniture. I knew when the time was right, the harvest would come. I kept planting seeds. I kept doing what he wanted me to do. And time passed, 2 years passed. But when I got the furniture, I went home zero down, 12 months without any or about $2,000, $3,000. So please understand, when God is ready to produce your harvest, nothing can stop him. You could be
Amen.
sitting at work, eating your ham sandwich, and he tell you, go get your furniture. And you can be back in the same hour, rendering to Caesar. I didn't even miss being back on time. I was back on time and had furnished 2 rooms. That's God. And that's harvest.
This harvest in the time. And I think if we can get away from the instant gratification, because that's what the enemy wants us to believe, that because we don't receive it immediately, that our prayers and our seeds are in vain. And so he wants you to believe that, so you will stop what you're doing. And a lot of times, and I see Lady Ladina on there, who's that's a preaching, teaching sister too.
Well, hello there, Miss Tilly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see Sister Selena on there, and Selena could probably can preach and teach about the harvest, because she's having manifestation after manifestation. And so a lot of times what seems like failure to other people is just God prepping you. Is prepping you and preparing you. Because I have been in places that I knew that 5 years, maybe 2 years, even 2 months prior, I wasn't ready. But it's the time and preparation, because there's no need of you receiving this harvest and you're ill prepared, people. You're ill prepared. You're ill equipped. And I know that God does things instantly, and He can does things, He does things in divine time. But sometimes our times do not mix. And when we think we're ready, a lot of times we're not ready. So can you speak to that, about that time? Because I hear time, you're saying time, and I'm saying time. And I'm going to tell you, we had no connection other than I told her I want to talk about harvest. We did not talk prior this interview, but time and preparation. Yep, timing is everything. Timing and preparation is everything. So look, can you speak to that in return, in regards of the harvest?
Yeah, because one of the things I said earlier was that time is spiritual currency. It's the one thing that God gives us, that you have to spend it wisely. And we cannot go back and redo things that have already been done. So it is so important to use our time wisely. And one of the ways we use our time wisely is by knowing the principle that our choices make choices for us. And see, people don't understand that sometimes you only get to make the first choice. Then all the other choices line up and are taken out of your hands. And so when we make good choices, when we make good decisions, when we use our time wisely, then we reap the bountiful harvest. When we do the things we've been told to do, when we're obedient. We've looked at this in several different ways. Sarah was given way more time than she wanted. She said, I've been waiting too long. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get Hagar. I'm going to have her to go ahead and have this baby God promised me. But what ends up happening when you take your time out of God's timing, you end up with an Ishmael, not an Isaac. See, Ishmael is a good idea. He was a child. Abraham loved him. That was his son. But the promise was Isaac. And God's favor was coming through Isaac. And so many times we move in Ishmael when we move out of time. Ooh. It's a good idea, but it ain't a God idea. And so we have to stop believing, oh, that sounds good. We have to start asking God, is this the door in this time I'm supposed to go through? Because you will wreck your life being early. And then you will miss your opportunity being late. So you have to have a faith walk and be close enough to hear God and say, this is the timing for this in my life. And don't get discouraged while you're waiting, because what God is bringing you is bigger than what you could have produced on your own. He only gives you the dream that it takes him to complete. If he wasn't needed to complete it for you to have your full harvest, he would not give it to you. You could do it on your own. So we have to be real clear about how time is important. They said there's a season. Sometimes we're all out of season. There's a time to pull down and a time to build up. But we are so busy sometimes being in our own head. We look across the street, or we look to our friend and see what they got, and we want out and want to get it too. We see people prospering and we run out and want to do it too. Right now, houses are extremely high. Right now, real estate is off the chain in terms of people who are selling versus buying. Maybe if you're straining yourselves to buy, this is not your time to buy. This is your time to save, to prepare, as you just said, to get what you really want. And so, but understand this, if you have prayed about it, if you have talked to God about it, the house is coming, the car is coming, the job is coming, the husband is coming, the wife is coming. All of these harvests are going to roll in because the principle stands: seed, time, and harvest. If you are sowing, God will give it. And I want to encourage you on something else. Understand this. Sometimes your harvest comes because someone else sowed.
Woo.
We don't catch that. Come on now.
I truly believe that I'm standing on the harvest of my grandmother. There was a
Come
praying
on. That's
woman.
what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
And I truly believe that, and there's biblical principles, your legacy, and
that's right, your inheritance.
Your inheritance, and that's why we have to be so careful what we do, because a lot of times it has consequences on our children, and generations that you never will see. You will
you
never
are telling the truth. So you are telling the truth.
Careful. That's why I'm all, and I can hear my grandmother. My grandmother always taught that. I'm glad you brought that. My grandmother always taught that. She said, baby, you don't want to sow a bad seed for people you'll never see. And she,
come on, isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? I mean, listen to we talk about generational curses, but there are so many generational blessings that we pull down. Mm-hmm. There are so many generational prayers that were put on deposit for such a time as this that you pull down. You got a great grandmother that prayed for you and you don't even know about it. Yeah. And it's so important for us to understand and realize that, that everything we look and see was sown into this earth. There is not anything that we are doing. The paper that's on this table was a tree at one time. Somebody sold it into a paper. Somebody else took the paper and made a book. Everything that we are harvesting has come from someone sowing. And then we have that personal connection, like you said, that grandmother, that mother or father that didn't leave here without giving you a harvest. And they may even still be here. There are plenty of parents putting a down payment on homes. There are plenty of parents that gave you a harvest of confidence. They gave you a harvest of education. They gave you the things they sowed and you reaped.
Yeah.
Come on now. God told Solomon, because of my love for your father David, I'm not gonna get you. You gotta understand that there is some seeds David sowed. Come on now. Solomon got.
Relationship.
So when we're talking about harvest, you looking over there at somebody and frowning up, and their blessing may be connected to your harvest. Come on.
Yes.
We got to be happy for everybody around us getting harvest.
Yes, because God always trickles that stuff around. So like just the way you're going to bless, the same God that blesses you can bless me. The same God that blesses your son can bless my son. And that's what we need to be. We're talking about like physical things, but sometimes we need to harvest the peace. Sometimes
that's what I talked about.
Reconciliation. And so that person, because peace seems to be, if you look at social media and you can tell some people are literally crying. They may not be, you can't see the tears, but you can feel the anxiousness. You can feel the anxiety. You can feel the tone just in their notes or their posts. So that's why I really want, I every week I try to say something about peace, but that's where I really want for people: peace, because you can get a lot of stuff, and we know that people have stuff, but they don't have peace. So the harvesting of the peace, I really want to encourage everyone to really think about peace, and to not just think about it, but think about scriptures, affirmations that will not only lend peace to you, but peace to your family members and others, because you never know what people are going through. People that have the biggest smile and the warmest hugs may also be going through different battles of their mind. So let's talk about the harvesting of the peace.
Well, that's just so important. And what we want to make sure that we're looking at is that we are being part of the solution and not part of the problem. that we're not criticizing people because they don't look happy. Like, you don't want
Mm.
to see someone say, girl, what's wrong with you now? But you want to let them, you want to hug them, and you want to let them know that they are loved not only by you, but that they are loved by others, that they are loved by God. You want to pick up the phone and call somebody you haven't heard from. You know, we can share and give out the power of peace and love. We can call,
Yeah.
and when you have someone and you think about someone, you can be praying for them to give them peace. You can be praying for them to get power out of their pain. You can be praying for them to be lifted up out of what they consider their bed. You know, he said, pick up your bed and walk. And so many times we find ourselves alone and lonely, and the very people we're looking to help us, they are sometimes frustrated because we haven't moved from where they last saw us. But if you keep on encouraging me, if you keep on pouring into my cup, if you keep on until my cup fills, then I can get up. If you keep pouring into me, and then when it gets poured into you, for those of you who are struggling, accept it. Accept what's coming to you. Accept the love. Accept the peace. Accept the grace. God said every morning I give you brand new mercies. Accept the mercies. It's not going to stay the way it is. It is going to be a harvest. It is going to be a change. Trouble don't last always. But in the meantime, connect with those around you. Let those around you know you're not superwoman. Put the red cape in the closet and say,
Amen.
I know I seem strong. I know I seem I'm all of that, but I'm hurting in this season. And then when you get that call from someone, when you get that need or that reach from someone, reach back out, touch them in some kind of way, hug them in some kind of way. Sometime a card to somebody that they just get in the mail will make, oh, somebody thought about me. I'm not out here by myself. God wants us to have peace. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that his thoughts of us are of peace and not of evil, toward an expected end. So he wants us to be in a place of peace. So sometimes we have to fight our way to peace. You know how we fight our way against the enemy? Fight your way against the enemy when he's trying to take your peace. Tell the enemy to back up off you. Tell him to get out your mind, because a lot of it is a battlefield in your mind. Tell him to stop skewing your perception. You thought somebody didn't speak to you and you're not lovable, and they didn't see you because they need new glasses. Come on now. So we got to be able, hey, so blessed, we got to be able to understand how to help each other. That's what you're talking about. And in helping each other, we're all going to come and get the harvest. We all go harvest peace. We're going to harvest those things that we need, not just things that are financial, but spiritual, emotional, and mental. All of those have harvest.
Yes, yes. And our time is almost up because I promised
Oh my goodness, thank you. Hey, Leslie, I'm doing shout outs.
But before we leave, I just want you all to know that this woman is a dynamic speaker and teacher. And I say personally that I've told this for years that I don't really think that she knows how valuable she is in the kingdom and her gifts. We haven't even touched her gifts. And I just want you all to encourage her, because I told her that I need a weekly Bible study with her, but she hasn't heard me in years. So maybe if you all flood her.
Oh my goodness.
Emails,
Oh my goodness.
do it. First Lady, Miss Leslie, y'all flood her with emails and inundate her.
Please do. All these women of God on here, I am open to receive. I am open for you guys to water my seed so my harvest is plentiful. I am just so hyped about Sheera, and I can say this about her. She is always in time. She hears from God. Truly, the last time she heard from him, we had a dynamic prayer meeting, and it was in the middle of the day, and I had to move some stuff around at work, and it was all worth it. So, I was like, listen, she calling me. Let me try to make it happen, because she's got her pulse on what God is saying to his people. And so I appreciate you having me so much. I appreciate all the people that came on. I hope you got something from our conversation on harvest. I know I did. I know just reading again on harvest inspired and helped me. I was like, man, I got some seeds to sow so that in this next season coming, I can see more harvest because that's what it's about. Don't worry about yesterday. See, sow your seeds today for your harvest coming later because it's coming.
Nicolette, how can people connect with you? If you don't know, she's a dynamic author as well, and she also has this wonderful skit that she does that's available on YouTube. So how can people connect with you?
Well, you can go to Mother Sweat, Collards and Cornbread, The Seasonings of Life. That is my YouTube channel. You can also go to ColetteHarrell.com, which is my website. So I have t-shirts, my books are on there. You can get any of my books from Amazon or any of the book sites. I do plan to come out with 2 new books in 2021. They long overdue. Thank you, Jesus. I know he's been really working with me to get these done and get them out to everybody. And so, and keep in mind that I also co-host and facilitate a forgiveness retreat that we have in the Smoky Mountains every few months. And so keep looking out that for me. If I'm not a friend of yours, please friend me so you can keep up on the happenings. And I'm just real excited about what God's going to do. I'm not letting any pandemic scare me. I'm not letting this election worry me. I know God is still on the throne and he is still doing things mighty.
Yep. And I truly believe that this is our time to seek our harvest, regardless of what happens next week. God is always in the throne, and this is our time to seek our harvest.
That is right.
Still being blessed. There are miracles still occurring in this pandemic, in all this chaos, and all the bitterness and hate that we see. That there is still time for you to get your harvest. And I want every one of you. Oh, thank you, Miss Iris. This is another blessed woman right here. One of the sweetest people that I have been able to have contact with. She also does an awesome retreat, a virtual retreat that is powerful. And this is a gentle soul. So
I have to check that out.
Yes, connect with her, honey. She is awesome. She's a giving, just generous soul. And so,
oh my goodness, these women. Here's the greatest thing: these women that are coming on here and listening. You know, these women are dynamic, and it says every seed after its own kind. I've never met such awesome women of God. You guys are awesome. I mean, I once I friend you and I started going through and seeing what you posted, and of course, Sheera, you are the queen of encouragement in your post. And so it's just so important to connect with each other and keep each other lifted. And so I appreciate you guys coming on and you calling out everybody and their sweetness and their godliness. My mama used to say, I'm in high cotton, baby.
All right, and everyone, I want you to stay encouraged. Like I said earlier, regardless of what's going on, I want you to stay encouraged and sow those seeds so you can see that harvest. Keep sowing seeds. Do not get weary. Do not get weary.
Do not get weary and well doing.
Yes, keep sowing those seeds.
For in due season. In due season. In due season. What's that? That's that time. Don't get anxious. Be anxious for nothing.
Nothing. Be anxious for nothing.
Working on your behalf. This time is working something out in your life. Let this time be an encouragement, not a detriment. Don't get worried about the time.
And I'm going to share a story that I shared with a couple of people from my soror, Carolyn Mackey. And Carolyn Mackey, many of you all, you may not know the name, but if you ever bought books from Black Expression, she was the woman who was in front and center of that. And I never forget that she gave us a story that she was going through some personal things. And she was like asking Lord, what's going on? What's going to happen? And she said that it was a snowstorm in New Jersey. And all of a sudden she saw a sparrow and the sparrow had found like a little chestnut or something on her awning, and she said the Lord spoke to her, if I can take care of this sparrow in the snowstorm, you know I'm gonna take care of you.
That's right.
And
That's
that's one
right.
thing you
How
all
awesome
will.
is that?
Rhonda, love you, honey. Do
And
not
he got,
be a
oh, Rhonda, hey,
well-being.
babe.
Yeah. Do not get
And
weary.
Raquel, she just got, hey, Raquel.
Yeah,
All my people in the house,
yeah, all you
Atlanta in
people.
the house.
Yeah, and do not get weary. And it's so easy because we're human people. It is so easy to get caught up in everything. And once you're so close, and I'm gonna let everybody go after this, but once you're so close to where you need to be, that's when a lot of times you will feel and you will get those attacks. And sometimes the attacks are not necessarily on you, but your family members. But that's when you know that you need to keep pursuing and keep pushing, whatever it is that you need to pursue. Keep doing it, keep pursuing it, and we're going to cover each other. And we need to think of something. Right, Rhonda. We need to think of something like when we had our prayer, and we probably will, because it's been on my mind. With Miss Eva, not even talked about it. Maybe doing a monthly prayer session or something bi-weekly. So
Yeah.
please, look in your DMs. I'm probably texting people, but that was
Yeah.
so powerful. Prayer
It
is
was. It was.
prayer is such power in prayer, and I think that we have gotten away from that as a culture, and we need to get back to it. To the power of prayer and the power of that corporate prayer is
That's
powerful.
right.
It's powerful. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. And keep in mind, as you talked about that sparrow in the storm, don't let distractions take you off course. Those distractions were sent because you are close to your
right,
harvest. You
right.
are close to the realization of your dreams. You are 5 seconds from the miracle. Do not allow that distraction to take you off course. Stay with it. Stay with it.
Stay
Yes,
with it.
elevation to a higher glory.
Higher
Stay
glory.
with it because we go from glory to glory. So, amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Hmm.
And from our bookshelf to yours, and from my heart to yours, I want everyone to stay encouraged, stay prayerful, and be inspired and inspire the next woman or man. Have a
Yes.
great night. Read you later. Good
All
night.
right. Thank you.